What's up, guys? We are back for another Mythic Legions Advent of Decay review. Today we're taking a look at DELPHINA of Eathyrosss. This is one of the Templar style figures, and this of course is a female figure. So we've got her in that standard packaging. She's in the big window. We've got a bio for her on the side, and we've got that same artwork on the backer card that we've seen throughout the line so far. So let's do it. Let's pull her out and take a look. And here she is out of the package, our DELPHINA of Eathyrosss figure. And this was one that at first glance I didn't care too much about, simply because I don't have any of the accompanying figures. Like, I don't have the other Templars that have come out previously in other Mythic Legions lines. So she wasn't high on my priority list, but someone asked to take a look at this one, so I figured we'd get her out sooner rather than later. And she's pretty sweet. I do have some issues with her, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with her. We'll, of course, take a look at Articulation first, and then we'll take a look at all this crazy sculpt work. So the head is on a ball peg, as is the norm. The neck can swivel as well. It just rotates inside of there. It's pegged into the chest, or the upper chest, shoulders. But you have a lot of range of motion here, all over, bobble side to side, full rotation. Arms go out. Joints are still really stiff on her, even despite playing around a lot. Joints are very stiff. Full rotation. We have got better than 90 degrees on the elbow. Swivel. We've got a swivel at the gauntlet, swivel at the wrist, and a hinge. We have got an upper diaphragm swivel, so you can move her around a little bit. Some of her sculpts are a little restrictive. We've got a waist twist as well. Legs go out, kick forward, kick back, thigh cut, single jointed knee, twist, and then we've got rotation, and we've also got a rocker, if I can get it to move, and then we've got a hinge at those ankles. My ankles have been really stiff on this figure. Even after heating them up a little bit, they've kind of gone back to the same rigidity, but they work just fine once you kind of get them moving a little bit. But otherwise, you know, she is as articulated as any other figure we've looked at so far. Where this figure really shines, and I guess that's sort of a pun, is in the overall looks department. This figure, once you get her in hand, you can really see that there is just a lot of stuff going on here. I mean, the big thing for her, obviously, is that she is fully clad in armor. We have got this huge, Knights Templar style cross that runs down her chest. And I do have one little QC issue. I've got a little bit of a paint bleed from the cross here into this white area. I think I can probably get that off. But, of course, I got to mention it. Other than that, though, I am pretty well blown away by the way she looks. Every inch of this figure is covered in some sort of sculpted embellishment with paint application on top of it. I mean, even on the backside, you can see her tunic comes through. We've got painted buckles, more painted buckles. Somehow I really like the aspect that of all these individually painted buckles on these figure. It's little details like that that really kind of set these figures apart. But then, of course, we have the incredibly bright, shiny finish on this figure. It kind of reminds me of the recent Marvel Legends Silver Surfer. It's kind of that level of shine when you get her in the right light. And, of course, everything from the plated armor to the chainmail that's on the joints, because you can see the chainmail in her shoulders, in her elbows, on the backs of her knees. But then all of this fine detail that's on the plates that runs down from the arms to the legs, on the waist pads, everything there just looks fantastic. And then we do, of course, have kind of a standard style Knight's helmet for her head sculpt. Of course, we do have an extra head. We'll talk about that momentarily, but I do like this with the gold embellishment on it. It's got a nice shiny patina on it, just like the rest of the figure. And in general, there's really nothing to gripe about here. Even though I don't really care for, generic kind of knight figures, I'm drawn to this line a lot more, some of the more fantastical elements in some of these figures. This one is a fantastically done toy. There's really no way to describe it. My only real gripe is that, of course, I've got that little paint bleed. There is painted joints on this figure, so you're going to see some paint rub here and there on like the elbows and the ankles, but that's not too crazy. I'm just noticing it a lot more on this particular figure because it's silver paint that then turns to gray plastic. At the end of the day, I don't complain too much about that kind of stuff because it's almost unavoidable. If you're going to paint a joint, they're going to chip eventually. But yeah, this is a solid figure. I really dig the design. My only regret about this one in terms of how she looks is that I don't have a lot to really pair her with because I don't have any of the boys. Now, as far as articulation goes, she has a decent spread, kind of a more varied spread than some of the other figures. So we're going to start with the stuff that's on the rack first. So we've got a kind of standard knight's sword, silver blade, gold hilt, nothing too crazy there. But the interesting thing about this figure is that she has a crossbow. It actually has a string on it too, so you can, with the included single arrow, you can actually kind of lock this guy into place. If you put it on here correctly and get that string on there, it will it will sit in place if you do it right. And you can have a loaded crossbow. It doesn't really go anywhere or anything, but I think that's really cool. I'm glad there's only one. I don't want a bunch of them because we do have an included quiver, so you can put the strap on her back or around her waist. I think it goes better on her back, and then you can slide this bad boy in there and she can hold her quiver of arrows, so that's kind of a nice way to do that. My only real gripe about this thing is it's really weirdly sculpted. It's got this bar here, so you can, again, put this on her back. But getting her to hold this is really odd, just because of the fact that they don't have interchangeable hands, and she doesn't really have a hand that's meant to hold this too well, especially in a two-handed pose. So you kind of got to finagle it a little bit. I've managed to get her in some interesting poses, but none that I'm really 100% happy with, so I think this is kind of an odd design personally. Yeah, so it's nothing too bad, but it's just kind of weird. And then we have, of course, got all the adapters and everything like that we see normally. We've got a humongous shield here. Obviously, you've seen it the whole time. So we got this big guy here that she can hold. It comes with just a little pole that you stick on the back, and she can hold it in either hand. And then we've got pauldrons you can pop in the back of her armor here. They're little guys. They're not big. Like I said previously, they don't really get in the way of anything. And then, of course, we've got, maybe the big one here is that she has a swappable head sculpt. This is the one thing in the figure that makes me a little more happy to have her, all things considered. It makes her not so much a generic, kind of female knight. Even though she's a named character, this gives her a little more life, and I absolutely love this head sculpt. I really dig the flowing hair. It's sculpted in a way that it kind of sits on the top of her armor and flows backwards. I really like, the fact that the face is fully painted, which makes it look even better. She's got a little blush on her cheeks. We've got a nice sheen in her eyes, dark lips. Everything about it's just a quality head sculpt, and I think, ultimately, this is the look that I'm probably going to go with for my display. So overall, I am really happy with this figure. I do think that, in general, she's solidly sculpted, solidly painted. She is a great design. My only regret is that I don't have more figures like her to kind of go along and make up a group, but that's my issue. Other than that, I have a few paint QC issues here and there, most regrettably on the tunic, which is a really bad place to have it, but overall, she does look fantastic. I dig the extra head sculpt. My only real technical gripe is that I just don't like the way she holds the crossbow. Something's awkward about it, and it's not all that secure for me. So that's kind of a negative, and I probably won't use it because of that, but at the end of the day, I'd probably have her with the sword and shield anyway. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legion's Advent of Decay Delphina of Aetheross figure from 4 Horsemen. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.